Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. So I know that I was supposed to get a video out about Oppenheimer and the CIA and all of its little claws out there. There is so much, and I'm trying to figure out how to narrow that down into a video that you guys will have time to watch. So bear with me. I will get there. I just haven't been able to kind of put that in a ball yet, if you will. So what I thought I would do for this video is talk about some things that I think some of them you may have heard about, some of them you may not have. Some of these things that are happening right now as we speak. So the police in Canada are telling people now to leave their car keys in a Faraday bag right by their front door, so that when armed thieves come, they can just grab the keys, steal your car, and there's no confrontation. Now remember, in Canada, you cannot buy a handgun. You can't buy one from anywhere and have it sent to you. You cannot buy it from a neighbor. Nothing. Okay? They're basically disarming their citizens, is what they're doing. And now they're telling people that armed thieves, it's better to just let them have your car than to have any sort of confrontation, because you won't have a weapon to defend yourself. So rather than having any confrontation, just let them take your car. Right? The craziness never stops. It just never stops. So in Oregon, back in 2021, they passed this law that farms, CAFO farms, must cease and desist operations. Now they pushed this through in, like I said, 2021, when most people were still dealing with all of the effects of COVID. Okay? Well, now they're enforcing it, like, bigly. So even if you have just a small homestead, right? You've got a couple chickens, maybe you've got a beef cow or calf, you got a couple pigs. If you have a concrete, gravel, or porous fiber, such as mulch, walkway or trail or path to your chicken coop or a barn, right? You are considered a CAFO now. And so you can no longer do that. You just have to stop. And on top of that, so you have inherited a generational farm, let's say, or generational property. Doesn't even have to be a farm. And let's say that you grow produce in gardens that you sell at the farmer's market. You are no longer allowed to use your own well, your private well, on your property to water those gardens. Because all water, except for collected rainwater, is considered public domain. And if you want to use your private well, hook up the garden hose, right? Water your blueberries, blackberries, water your gardens, water your livestock. You have to pay for a permit for that. Look it up. I'm not making this up. The only water that you are allowed to use If you are not able to get a permit, which most people are not, is collected rainwater. In California, collecting rainwater is a crime because, you know, the government owns the rain, apparently. Which could be because they might be the ones that produce it. Insanity just keeps going, right? And when I was reading about what was going on in Oregon, I couldn't believe the number of people that were saying, well, all of these small farms, you know, they can't keep up with this. Like, the rules change and the definitions change. Why are they even talking about that? Like, why is this just not a no? Like, no, this is my well. This isn't a public well. I paid for it. I get to use my water the way I want to. But that's not what's happening. Remember that Oregon has strict gun laws. And so the government just can come in and take what they want. And it's happening right now, folks. Anything that's grown in Oregon. So, you know, there's wineries out there. Well, you have to have water. But they can't use that anymore. You can't use your well water to irrigate your crops or water your livestock. Which means anything that Oregon grows out there that adds, you know, nationally plus whatever they export, anything with those ingredients, that produce, that meat is going to skyrocket in price. And the number of farms, you know, and I apologize. I'm going to hesitate quite a bit because, once again, I have to be careful how I say things, but also because this really upsets me. You know, if you have a small farm, like a half acre, let's say you have a half acre of produce that you sell at the farmer's market. These people that need that for their livelihood will no longer be able to produce that unless they have water catchment systems big enough to keep their crops or their animals hydrated all year round. The next thing, I am pretty sure, unless you did not watch the news at all yesterday or today, was this illegal immigrant that came out with this squatters thing on TikTok. He's basically telling illegal immigrants the legalities of how you can take ownership of an abandoned house. Now, states have their different rules. Some states, if you are a homeowner, you're gone for 30 days. On that 31st day, if somebody else moves in, they have a right to that property. Florida, so far, is the only one that has said no. So I'm thinking, you know, we live here, as you know, in Wisconsin. And we are surrounded by summer homes. We have a lot of snowbirds. These cabins and home, you know, lake homes, what have you, are empty pretty much all winter long. And I know because I worked for the census in 2020. So I know how many of them we have in our area. So it's been added to part of our area study that I talked about in another video. if these illegal aliens look into this, we could be here in rural Wisconsin, could be surrounded by these squatters, illegal immigrants. But not only that, but desperate people, homeless people, right? I live in a very poor county, one of the poorest in Wisconsin. And they're basically, this guy was basically going out there and saying, well, this is how you can do it legally. You know, it's not bad enough that they don't like the free food that they're getting, and they don't like the amenities in the 5-star hotel that they've kicked veterans out of to stay in. But now TikTok has allowed this person to go on there and tell them, well, just go in and take over this house. You know, there's two things that scare me about that. The first one I already said, we are surrounded by summer homes. You know, people from the cities will come up during the summertime, spend time at their cabin. We have a lot of snowbirds, so there's a lot of properties, right? The second part of that is, who's going to go out looking for those properties? So are you going to get a knock on your door by an illegal immigrant, wondering if anybody actually lives in that house? And then, oh, you know, I see that you have a heated barn over there, or, oh, well, while we're here checking you out, the house, we're also looking at everything else on your property. This is putting a lot of people in danger from my opinion, two perspectives. When you think the insanity, like we just can't get any more crazy, it just gets more crazy, right? So our government is in charge of investigating their own crimes. Do you really think that they are going to hold anybody accountable for any of this? No. And what is our role in it? We would rather have safe oppression than dangerous freedom. We would rather sit by and watch all of this stuff happen. Our constitutional rights, our unalienable rights given to us by our Creator, Father in heaven, than do anything about it. If you call somebody the wrong pronoun on the street, you can go to jail. Your commander-in-chief was more apologetic about calling an illegal alien illegal than he was about this beautiful young woman dying at the hands of an illegal immigrant. He would rather make sure that the illegal immigrants have the food that they like than to have our veterans off the streets with all the resources they need as heroes of this country. He would rather spend our tax money, well, through the CIA, not only to bring illegal aliens into the country, but to add people to the southern border not to protect the southern border, but to process the people who came in illegally. What does that tell you? This whole DEI thing, diversity, equity, blah, 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 that is all about getting conservatives out of positions in education and workplaces so that their insane ideologies can be bestowed upon anybody without conservatives getting in the way saying no. You guys really need to be preparing. And I am angry and I'm upset because there have been major protests for lesser things. And then, of course, you've had peaceful protests for untruths, right? And then when we tried to have a protest at the Capitol, it was considered a crime. I want you to think about this. And I don't know who all of you are. But you're obviously interested in prepping. You know that I am a Christian conservative. I say that right in my description. Prepping from a biblical standpoint. Okay? If you are a conservative Christian, and honestly, it doesn't matter what race you are, but if you are a conservative Christian, would you get away with going into a jewelry store and stealing $999 worth of jewelry and getting away with it? Would you get away with burning down a police station in a peaceful protest against the censorship of conservatives? No. Okay? Do you trust that your government has your best interests at heart? No. Do you believe that your tax dollars are going where they need to go, where they should go? No. Do you think that you should just put your car keys by the front door so that armed criminals don't have to deal with confrontation and they can just take your car? No. Do you think if you pay your property taxes and, whether you paid off your property or you're paying on a mortgage, that well does not belong to you? No. Should it be public domain? No. Right? Should you be limited in how you use that water? No. The craziness is not going to stop, folks. I've said in many videos prior, where is your red line? I've been thinking about getting on my school board, trying to figure out ways to, although our school board, from what I know, is pretty conservative, but it's one more conservative voice on the team, right? I will not openly advocate for anything, but our election is in November. Do you think, as in 2020, this is going to be fair and equal? No. But even if by some miracle the Republican nominee gets in, still not sworn in till January 20th, that's 10 months away. Do you think this country will last another 10 months at the rate we're going? No. Gas prices went through the roof just within the last week. Is that our fault? No. Okay. I would like to see in your comments below what you think the next step should be for conservatives. For a lot of people, they'd rather have that safe oppression rather than the dangerous freedom. It is scary to stand up for what you believe in. It is scary to be vocal and public about where you stand, because the retributions are swift and harsh. But I cannot live in a country where it's safe oppression. We're taking your rights away because, and I'm giving away my rights because it's safer that way. This country was not founded on the safe way. They went to war for our independence. What do we need to do to keep our freedom, as dangerous as that might be? But not only is that an obligation, it's a duty to defend our freedom. So, as preppers, especially with, the National Guard's being called out all over the place for this eclipse that's going to last for like 4 minutes, is that the Black Swan event? Will there be something that happens on that day, April 8th? You need to keep preparing, because I don't believe that we have 10 months, and I also believe that we have to make a decision now and not 10 months from now. Stay safe, stay aware, and God bless.